provide you with the lowest per GB rates, night or day. SLT 4G, driving you ever forward.
Making headlines at first at 9. Political stability. President Maithripala Sirisena assures the constitutionality of the new Premier's appointment. Cabinet boost. Another UNP MP joins the interim government along with an ITAC parliamentarian. The Speaker meanwhile holds a meeting at the parliamentary premises.
We urge that Parliament be convened early and Parliament must be able to assert its supremacy.
Parliament must be convened without delay.
Following suit, Lanka IOC reduces prices of auto diesel and octane 92 petrol after CPC reduced their prices yesterday. EU warning. A report says that the European Union is mulling stripping Sri Lanka of duty-free access. Another twist. Saudi Crown Prince allegedly described slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi as a dangerous Islamist. Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknaik. Now moving on to your top stories. The Lanka Indian Oil Company has revised its fuel prices with effect from midnight today. Accordingly, the price of Lanka auto diesel will be reduced by 11 rupees per litre, while the price of octane 92 petrol is to be reduced by 2 rupees. The LIOC says that although international oil prices came down during the current month, petrol and diesel has not been reduced significantly owing to substantial depreciation of the Sri Lankan rupee. The government yesterday decided to reduce prices of the CPC fuel, and accordingly the price of a litre of 92 octane petrol was reduced by 10 rupees from 155 rupees to 145 rupees, while price of a litre of auto diesel was reduced by 7 rupees from 123 to 116 rupees. Now, President Maithripala Sirisena informs UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres that the appointment of a new Prime Minister was done in keeping with the Constitution of Sri Lanka. This was conveyed during a telephone conversation between the head of state and the UN Secretary-General last evening.
President Maithripala Sirisena had engaged in a telephone conversation with UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres last evening. In a message on Twitter, the head of state said that the conversation was successful. The president had also informed the UN Secretary-General that the political stability of the country will be assured when the parliament meets within a few days. He has also informed that not a single incident of violence was reported in the country and some are engaged in false propaganda to gain political mileage. UN Secretary-General Guterres has also assured the assistance of his organization to the President of Sri Lanka at any time if a request is made.
A cabinet minister and a deputy minister of the interim government were sworn in before President Maithripala Sirisena at the presidential secretariat today. Accordingly, MP SB Navin of the United National Party was sworn in as the Minister of Cultural Affairs, Internal Affairs and Regional Development. Parliamentarian of Ilange Tamilar Sukachi S. Vielendiran also took oath as the Deputy Minister of Regional Development. Now, according to the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, the number of ministers in the cabinet should be limited to 30 in a scenario where a national government is not in power. It also dictates that the number of state and deputy ministers be limited to 40. Following today's appointments, 15 cabinet ministerial positions remain vacant, while 25 state and deputy ministerial positions are yet to be filled.
12 cabinet ministers, 1 state minister and 1 deputy minister took oath before President Maithripala Sirisena on the 29th of last month, while parliamentarian Dunesh Gankandar, representing the United National Party, was also sworn in as the state minister on the 30th. Those numbers enhanced as 2 cabinet ministers, 5 state ministers and 4 deputy ministers took oath before the president last evening. With UNP's MP SB Navin taking oath as Minister of Cultural and Internal Affairs as well as Regional Development, the number of cabinet ministers in place has become 15 in number. As TNA parliamentarian SBLA Indiran also taking oath today, there are now 8 deputy ministers in place, accompanied by 7 state ministers. The 19th Amendment to the Constitution limits the number of ministers in the cabinet to 30 in a scenario when a national government is not in effect. It also limits the number of state ministers and deputy ministers to 40. Accordingly, 15 cabinet ministerial positions are vacant while 25 state and deputy ministerial positions also require being filled. All ministers to take oath last evening are from the United People's Freedom Alliance. Accordingly, the support of all 95 MPs who were elected to the parliament under the UPFA have now pledged their support to the interim government of new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. Premier Rajapaksa also has the support of EPDP leader Douglas Devananda as well as Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, Vasantha Senanayaka, Dinesh Gankanda, Vadivel Suresh and Anand Arudgamage and SB Navinna, who were elected to the parliament under the United National Party, along with the backing of MP SBLA Indiran, who was elected through Ilangai Tamil Arasu Katchi. In addition, Venerable Athuraliye Ratanathera, who was elected from the UNP and is currently working independently in the parliament, has also backed Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. With it, the total number of parliamentarians backing Premier Rajapaksa has boosted to 104. As a result, the composition of the UNP in parliament has also changed, with their number sliding to 99. Tamil National Alliance occupies 16 seats in parliament, however one of them has already defected to the interim government. The Janata Vimukti Peramuna meanwhile has 6 seats in parliament. Accordingly, the UPFA-led faction, which is in support of PM Mahinda Rajapaksa and the interim government, have the support of 104 parliamentarians, while 99 back former PM Ranil Wickremesinghe. Either side is yet to secure the majority 113 in parliament.
Speaker Karu Jayasuriya today quoted President Maithripala Sirisena and said that the head of state will convene parliament on the 7th of this month. The speaker made this statement while addressing a meeting held at the parliamentary premises this morning.
A meeting between the Speaker and political party representatives was held at the parliamentary premises today. Party leaders of the United National Front, including Rauf Hakim, Palani Digambaram, Mano Ganeshan and Rishad Badiuddin, participated in the meeting, along Propaganda Secretary of the JVP Vijitha Herath, parliamentarians representing the TNA, along with opposition leader R. Sambandhan.
The orders that are contained in the extraordinary Gazette notification issued by the President on the 26th of last month are against the Constitution and are unlawful. I hereby state that we do not accept the appointments of the new Prime Minister and others by the President. Honourable Speaker, we have shown the Parliament majority. Today there are 115 present among us. With our leader it's 116 and with your vote it's 117. I had a meeting with the President last Wednesday. Instead of convening the Parliament on the 16th, the President agreed to pay attention to convening the Parliament in the coming week. Yesterday, the President called me and told me that the Parliament will be convened on the 7th of this month. Removal or the appointment of the Prime Minister should be done in accordance with the Constitution and through Parliament. What happened was against the Constitution, democracy and ethics. So, all 6 MPs of the JVP are against this. We are unaware of an official statement by the President, but this should be gazetted and if not, as the Speaker, convene the Parliament according to your powers.
The country is facing a grave constitutional crisis. This must come to an end early. Parliament must be convened early and Parliament must be able to assert its supremacy. The purported removal of the Prime Minister by the President has no constitutional sanction. We are not interested in individuals or personalities, but the sanctity of the Constitution must be protected and preserved. That's our fundamental duty. And we urge that Parliament be convened early and Parliament be enabled to take a decision in regard to this matter.
I have had the opportunity of meeting with His Excellency the President on behalf of my party. I have also met with the purported Prime Minister claimed by the other side, Honorable Mahinda Rajapaksa. To both of them and to the President in particular, I have made a direct request that Parliament must be convened without delay. And therefore, if there is any attempt to delay convening Parliament, you must act as our custodian of our rights and convene Parliament.
Convening a media briefing, several parliamentarians of the UNF expressed their views to media.
No, there is no such thing. I saw certain statements and alerts in this regard, but they are false. Not only the 118 present, but we have faith that we will gain more votes than this.
අපිට මේ 118 දෙනා පමණක් මීට වැඩිය අපිට ඡන්දේ පාවිච්චි කරයි කියලා අපිට විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂම කියලා තියෙනවා පරදි.
We tell Mahinda Rajapaksa that none of these democratic parties would agree for an illegal dissolution of parliament if he intends to do so.
කිසි ලෙසකින් එකඟ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Propaganda Secretary of the JVP, Vijitha Herath, made a special statement refuting reports which claim that 6 of their MPs will vote in favour of the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
A false news has been published saying that the JVP is supporting Ranil Wickremesinghe. The JVP has never made such a statement and will never do such a thing. Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that he engaged in a discussion with former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe on how to resolve the present political situation. The former Defence Secretary alluded to his meeting with the former PM after attending a commemoration ceremony in Amblipitia held under the auspices of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today attended the 33rd commemoration ceremony of his mother, Donanandina Samarasinghe Disanayaka. The event took place at the D.A. Rajapaksa Memorial Conference Hall in Amblipitia. We received an invitation from Ranil Wickremesinghe. Accordingly, I represented the President and the Prime Minister and met him. We discussed how to resolve the present political situation in the country without making it a big deal. We also discussed the issue of temple trees and the security arrangements for Wickremesinghe. In the meantime, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived at the sacred Kirivehera temple in Kataragama and engaged in religious observances. The Prime Minister called on Chief Incumbent of Kirivehera Temple, Venerable Kobawaka Dhamminda Thera, and the Chief Incumbent of Situlpawwa Temple, Venerable Mataramba Hemaratana Thera. The Prime Minister also engaged in rituals at the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devala.
A delegation of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has allegedly met with the Indian and British High Commissioners to Sri Lanka backing the constitutionality of the new Premier Mahinda Rajapaksa's recent appointment. Several members of the party made the claim today while addressing a media briefing held at the party headquarters. The UNP's claim of having a majority in Parliament was also touched on. The United National Party convened a meeting in a committee room at the Parliament trying to prove that they have the majority. Firstly, if they have to prove it, they have to do it in Parliament. This shows the pathetic situation they are faced with. They say 119 attended the meeting. However, the copy issued with the signature of the mace bearer has only 107. Out of these 107, 12 are members of the Tamil National Alliance and 2 are from the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. Out of the remaining 93, 6 of those whose names can't be revealed have already spoken with us and have finalised their ministerial portfolios. Accordingly, UNP will probably have only 83. If fuel prices and taxes could be reduced after PM Mahinda Rajapaksa coming to power, it shows that the prices were high when they could have been lower. The President has not promised to convene the Parliament and it will surely be convened on the 7th. Mahinda Rajapaksa didn't assume duties without knowing the necessary numbers. The Speaker promised to allocate the seat of the Prime Minister to Mahinda Rajapaksa. That acceptance can only be eliminated through a no-confidence motion. We are not scared of that and we will show what is necessary at the right moment. We're getting ready to hold a mass gathering in Colombo on the 5th and everyone will be able to see who has a bigger public support. The Prime Minister will announce more concessions when the interim budget is presented. Dinesh Gunawardena, Nimal Siripal De Silva, 2 parliamentarians and myself met the Indian High Commissioner and explained our stance. We also met the British High Commissioner yesterday. We clarified that it is the President who has the sole power to convene the Parliament. We hope to visit more High Commissions, the country representatives of the United Nations and financial institutions. Although the budget is defeated, the Parliament will not be dissolved, but another Prime Minister and a Cabinet will have to be appointed. The Parliament will not be dissolved until 4.5 years completion under any circumstances according to the 19th Amendment to the Constitution.
In the meantime, the Central Working Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened last night under the patronage of its leader President Maithripala Sirisena. It is reported that a proposal of gratitude for the President for withdrawing from the unity government and appointing Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Prime Minister was passed.
Leader of the House, MP Lakshman Kirela, today handed a motion of no confidence to Speaker Karu Jayasuriya against the premiership of Mahinda Rajapaksa and the interim government. The Speaker can, however, convene the Parliament only if the Gazette notification, which prorogued the Parliament to the 16th of November, is cancelled and another Gazette notification is issued.
In today's events, Leader of the House Lakshman Kirela handed over a motion of no confidence to Speaker Karu Jayasuriya against the premiership of Mahinda Rajapaksa and the interim government. Meanwhile, a meeting between members of trade unions attached to UNP and the leader of the UNP, Ranil Wickremesinghe, was held at the Temple Trees.
I enjoy the majority. Everything is controlled by the Parliament. Mahinda Rajapaksa said that the Parliament be convened on the 5th, so we agreed, hoping that it will be convened on the said date. The President postponed it to the 7th. We now have to continue our fight. This should be resolved democratically.
Civil society organizations and public representatives also convened several media briefings at Temple Trees today. Meanwhile, the organization Bodubala Sena lodged a complaint with the Financial Crimes Investigation Division today, claiming that former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's continued stay at the Temple Trees amounts to misuse of state property. Meanwhile, UNP MP Partali Champika Ranawaka was seen at his former ministry this morning despite the appointment of a new cabinet. The previous cabinet, in which MP Ranawaka served as the Minister of Megapolis and Western Development, was dissolved following the appointment of a new Prime Minister by President Maithripala Sirisena.
A media report published in Reuters warns of the European Union considering stripping Sri Lanka of its duty-free access if it backs off commitments on rights. In the report, Ambassador of the European Union to Sri Lanka, Tunglai Mag, expresses concern on the recent political manifestations in Sri Lanka.
A media report published in Reuters says that European Union is considering stripping Sri Lanka of its duty-free access if it backs off commitments on rights. According to the report, the European Union ambassador to Sri Lanka, Tunglai Mag, has told Reuters today that, quote, the government got GSP on the basis of certain commitments. If these commitments are not met, then we would consider withdrawal, unquote. The report quotes Mag saying that he doesn't know that the policy of new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa would be like that. He fears the policy would not be the one which was agreed upon. The report quotes Mag saying that he doesn't know that the policy of new Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa would be like that. He fears the policy would not be the one which was agreed upon. The Reuters also quotes parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa in its report. The report quotes him as saying, quote, reconciliation has and always will be a focal area for us. If there is concern that GSP will need to be withdrawn, these concerns are unfounded and presupposed in error, unquote. The report further reads, after being appointed, Premier Rajapaksa struck a conciliatory tone, saying he would eschew the politics of hate, protect human rights and the independence of the judiciary and establish law and order. Report quotes Mag on Sri Lanka regaining the GSP Plus preferential treatment in 2017 as saying that the country's exports to the EU have since jumped 18% and fish exports has increased 100%.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka announces that Western Province retained its dominance in the economy in 2017, but its share reduced as other provinces, some considered lagging regions, contributed a bigger share, narrowing regional disparity. The Central Bank, in a statement, said that the provincial gross domestic product shows that the Western Province continued to account for the largest share of the country's nominal GDP, but its share slipping to 37.2% in 2017 from 37.8% the year before, according to the GDP estimated by the Statistics Department of the Central Bank. The Central Bank further says, quote, during 2017, increases in GDP shares could be observed in eastern, northwestern and Uva provinces, while that of western, southern, north central and Sabaraguma provinces decreased, unquote. The statement further adds that the shares of central and northern provinces remain unchanged, while central and northwestern provinces were the second and the third highest contributors to the national GDP in nominal terms. Now, oil prices fell today as surging output by the world's three largest producers outweighed supply concerns from the start of the US sanctions next week against Iran's petroleum exports. Front month Brent crude futures were at $72.60 per barrel, down 29 cents from their last close. US West Texas Intermediate crude futures were down 24 cents at $63.45 a barrel. Brent has fallen by over 12% since the beginning of October, while West Texas Intermediate has lost more than 13% in value. US investment bank Jefferies, meanwhile, said today that what was more troubling is the shift in structure towards contango. Contango implies oversupply, as it means prices for future delivery are higher than the immediate dispatch. This makes it attractive for traders to store oil for later sale, although Jefferies said spreads are still insufficient to encourage physical storage. This makes it attractive for traders to store oil later. Stock markets in China gained today after US President Donald Trump said trade talks with Beijing were moving along nicely. Hong Kong's Hang Seng jumped 3.9%, Shanghai Composite rose 2.4%, and the yuan firmed. The move follows media reports that pointed to progress on the US-China trade dispute. It comes ahead of a key meeting between Trump and China's President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit this month. The event will be closely watched for any progress in the resolution of the bitter trade dispute between the world's two largest economies. Meanwhile, comments made by Trump yesterday appeared to be an attempt to ease tensions. The US president tweeted, quote, "Just had a long and a very good conversation with President Xi Jinping of China. We talked about many subjects with a heavy emphasis on trade," unquote. And now to give you a market update, share prices, or more like the old share price index, increased 2.7% to 6,114.13, slipping from its highest close since the 7th of September. The average daily turnover was 2 billion rupees, and the turnover crossing was 1.9 billion rupees, with the total foreign purchases accounting for 43.7% of the turnover. We now have Stefan Dialvis from NDB Securities for a detailed report.
During the week, the ASPI gained 4.5%, mainly due to price gains in counters such as John Kills Holdings, Commercial Bank and distilleries. Similarly, the S&P SL20 increased by 7%. These are the highest weekly gains recorded since September 2012. The average daily turnover for the week was up from last week to 2 billion rupees. Foreigners remained active for the week, closing as net sellers, where foreign sales accounted for 66% of the total weekly turnover.
Taking a look at the currency, the rupee today appreciated after continuous falls in the recent past. The selling rate of the US dollar has reduced to 175 rupees and 32 cents. The rupee had weakened 3.7% in October and 4.7% drop in September against the dollar. It dropped 13.4% so far this year. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the world. Moving on to news from overseas, two media reports piled pressure on the United States and Saudi Arabia over the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, saying that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told the US he considered the slain journalist to be a serious Islamist. Both the Washington Post and New York Times say Prince Mohammed made a telephone call to the White House before Saudi Arabia admitted Khashoggi had been killed.
Media reports say Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told the US he considered murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi to be a dangerous Islamist. The report published in the Washington Post and New York Times says Prince Mohammed made a telephone call to the White House before Saudi Arabia admitted Khashoggi had been killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Saudi Arabia has denied the media reports. A Saudi national and well-known critic of Saudi rulers, Khashoggi was killed and his body dismembered on the 2nd of last month. His body has not yet been found. The Washington Post say during the call with President Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner and National Security Advisor John Bolton, Prince Mohammed said Khashoggi had been a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, a transnational Islamist organization. The phone call is reported to have taken place on the 9th of October, a week after Khashoggi disappeared. Prince Mohammed also reportedly urged the White House to preserve the US-Saudi alliance.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.